Good evening, folks. You're watching The Hungry Handgunner. I'm Nick, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Sig Sauer P229 Elite. So this will be the first time really seeing a kind of in-depth look at a Sig double action, single action. You guys know how I feel about those. So the generous buddy that loaned me this pistol to take a look at is recently relocated down here to Georgia from a state where magazine capacity over 10 rounds was not allowed. So we have 10 round mags, but we have 3 of them, so that should be fun. And we're just gonna play around a little bit. So, let's have some fun. I'm gonna do the first shot double action like the good Lord intended. Super nice trigger. Didn't lock to the rear on that last one. Could have been me though. The double action trigger is very nice though. I'm gonna hit that far one. Maybe not. We hit part of it. All right, what we got left here? 2 rounds. Let's see if I can connect. There we go. Yeah, I must be holding it back because all 3 mags, it hasn't locked to the rear. So, why don't we take a close-up look, go over some specs on this thing. This gun is absolutely gorgeous. You guys are gonna see that in the close-up. These are some aftermarket grips on it, but feels very good in the hand, and I'm excited. And I have a special surprise as a part of this video. If you guys are like me, or even if you're not and you've been watching for a while, you guys know I'm a huge fan of double action pistols. So since we have the opportunity to have a Sig double action on the channel, we're gonna do a double action lineup. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna have Berettas, we're gonna have Sig, we have CZ, we have HK. I think that might be it. I'm not sure, but we're gonna have fun with it. So let us begin. This is the gorgeous Sig 229 Elite. You see mag capacity topped off at 10 right now. Nominal capacity or normal capacity for these is 15 rounds. But there you go. It's a Sig, it's a double action. For those that don't know, it is amazing. So to release the slide, it's there. Then your decocker is here. So it's kind of intuitive, although if you're used to shooting with decockers in other positions, at least for me, it becomes easy to, when you go for a reload and you put your fresh mag in, instead of hitting this, I find myself going for this. I don't know why. I'm sure that's a training issue that I could overcome if I shot these more often, but it is there. So it is what it is, but decocker there. We'll look at that trigger pull. So double action, and you just kind of go and go and go, and then it breaks. Not bad. Single action trigger pull, little take up, you hit a wall right off the bat. Nice trigger on it. We'll go ahead and check the reset on that. Right there, tactile, audible, short, very nice. This one does have night sights from the factory, so very cool beans there. Nice finish on it. Of course, made in New Hampshire, which is awesome. So now we'll go over some specs. So we'll go ahead and start with the fact that this is a German frame and a New Hampshire slide, so I forgot to mention that. So kind of an anomaly there. It is considered a compact. We have an overall length of 7.1 inches, an overall width of 1.5 inches, a height of 5.5 inches, barrel length 3.9, so right there in that good little range. It is a heavy grill at 32 ounces. Sight radius is 5.7 ounces. You do have the SIG rail up front, double action, single action. Of course, the trigger is curved by default. These are aftermarket grips, but SIG does a pretty good job with their ergonomics, in my opinion. Of course, up front, you do have the now industry standard light and laser rail, so I think that's good. Very comfortable gun. I like the fact that the beaver tail comes out as far as it does. Now, I realize it does present some challenges when carrying, potentially, but I would much rather have to conceal that than deal with my hand getting slide bit. Not super common, but with a good grip on the gun, that kind of gives you an idea. That's my shooting grip there, and you can see that there's no chance that slide is going to hit anything remotely resembling flesh. So I like that. Just a gorgeous gun. So very cool there for sure. Looking forward to putting some more rounds through this thing. So I've been doing some thinking on how I want to do this, because for me to adequately give an assessment in a perfect scientific setting, I would need to have the same number of rounds through each gun. I've carried them all for the same length of time, etc., etc., etc. And that's just not the case, and quite frankly, I don't have the ammo or the time to do that test that way. So I'm going to point out the obvious in the event that nobody's thought of this. This is subjective. These are my opinions based on my preferences, based on my time with these guns. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to lead off the comparison with the guns that I have the most trigger time with, the most time carrying, the most classes, the most whatever with, and then work my way down. So that gives us something to revert back to. So unsurprisingly, if you've been watching the channel for a while, possibly surprising I guess, the M9A3 is going to be where I'm going to start this. Because the Beretta M9 and 92 series of pistols are so similar, I think that this will serve as just an excellent analog. And we'll go over some of the strengths and weaknesses of each model, each product line. There are some things that each brand tends to do over and over, like the slide mounted decocker / safety on the Berettas. They tend to do that a lot on those guns. So we'll go over the pros and cons of each one, the things I like, things I don't like, features that some have that others don't, and also keep in mind that I'm doing this from a self-defense, concealed carry, home defense, whatever mindset. So this isn't so much competition, this isn't so much collector, because obviously if you're a collector, you should ideally want all of them, I think. But if you're not, I'm coming at this from the point of view of having carried these guns, my thoughts on them. With the exception of the SIG, I have not carried that one, and go from there. So there is that. Now, before we get any further in this, the other caveat I want to address is, Nick, why a double action? Why a double action, single action semi-auto in the world of 1911s, single action only guns with those super nice triggers, or striker fire guns where it's the same trigger pull instead of two trigger pulls, double action and single action? Why would you even want to do this? Well, I have a longer video on the subject that I will drop down in the description. Feel free to go check it out. But in a nutshell, I like the safety aspect, I guess for me is the biggest one. I carry appendix. Now I realize good gear, good decisions, good mindset is going to mitigate this risk. But when reholstering a gun, look your gun into the holster and all that good stuff. But if something does happen with a striker fired gun, there's the fact that you don't know what's going on with that trigger and the firing pin. Now there is the thing called the striker control device for Glocks, in which the backplate moves as things push on the trigger and the striker starts moving. And that is cool, but that's not the norm, and that's an aftermarket part that you have to put on and try to source all that good stuff. So with a double action gun, when I go to reholster, I put my thumb on the hammer. If something is snagging that trigger, I have instant tactile feedback that something's going on. So obviously I can block that hammer coming back and then forward and firing, number one, but number two, I can adjust whatever situation's going on down there. So that's one of the big reasons that I like the double action, single action. The other side of it is reliability. So in my experience, and I realize this is anecdotal, these guns tend to be a little bit more forgiving of things like hard primers, differing ammo types, stuff like that. Now, there is a trade-off that I'll freely admit, that because this is not a self-enclosed unit, there is the possibility that as that hammer's trying to fall, something could get in between there, clothing, foreign debris, whatever, and block the hammer hitting the firing pin. How common that is, well, I can't say. It's never happened to me up till now, but it is a possibility, and, well, quite frankly, one of the downsides to this style gun. Now, as far as why not a single action, well, while freely admitting that with some double action, single action guns, such as the Beretta in its FS configuration where you have a safety here, this is a G series decocker only, but I'll hold that down. You can see the trigger's dead. Mine springs back up to ready to fire because it's decocker only. On guns with safeties, and that's something that could inadvertently get pushed on, whatnot. However, mine are all configured so that they are decocker only, and when I pull the gun, there is no added step as deactivating a safety or anything like that. I pull the gun, I press the trigger, gun goes bang. Whereas a single action, I'm going to need to be cognizant of the fact that I need to hit that safety, and there's that. Of course, all this is predicated on carrying around in the chamber, which I'm a very big fan of. We may do another video on that. If you guys argue with me too much in the comments, I'll be forced to do that. But a single action gun, needing that extra step to remember to hit the safety, is it a big deal? Maybe, maybe not. To me, I feel like with my mindset, knowing myself the way that I do, I don't want that added step. I think it's something you can train around, but at the end of the day, I still like shooting these guns. So the double action trigger pull, nothing to be scared of, something that you absolutely need to train, do your dry fire, get your reps in. You guys have been watching me shoot long enough that, well, the double action doesn't seem to hold me back too much. Could I be a better shooter? Absolutely. I'm not claiming to be Jerry Mitchellek or anything like that, but with proper training and practice and drilling that, I don't think it's a detriment at all. And of course, the single action on a double single action is going to be orders of magnitude better than most striker triggers out of the box. Compare factory DASA trigger to factory striker trigger. I think you'll find that single action pull on the DASA gun to be much better than your standard Glock or M&P or CZ P10C on pretty much everything except the Canic, which has its own ball of worms that we may address in a future video. So, with all that being said, let's start here. This is the Beretta M9A3. I, at this point, have over 12,000 rounds to this particular gun. I have changed the recoil spring twice, so I'm on my third one. Guide rod has been changed out. I did develop some slight cracking down near the flared base, if you will, of the guide rod, and went to a fluted steel one, and it has been a very reliable, awesome gun. I did carry an appendix for a long time, and it was, while bulky, not as bad as you would think. So there is that. Because of the design of the Beretta and the open top and whatnot, very few stovepipe type malfunctions there. Couple failures to feed with some light loaded ammo. I loaded up some subsonic ammo in anticipation of playing with the Ghost M, and some of that ammo was not cycling well. I had gone too far down. While still acceptable load data in the book, it was just not enough whatever to get this gun to run reliably, or actually any of them for that matter. So I revamped the subsonic loads, and we had a good time. You guys will enjoy that video, I think. But anyway, features that this gun has that I like. Normal mag capacity on this is going to be 17+1. It will use standard M9A3 mags. Like this one is a 15 rounder, fits in there just fine. Slide mounted decocker, not my favorite. I prefer a frame mounted, but again, what you get used to, it's not bad. I can hit that without altering my grip too god awful much. Light rail, lights are important on defensive guns in my opinion. Optics mounting capabilities, that's where this gun falls short. Now I haven't messed with the M9A4 yet to know how they do it. This is an aftermarket slide. This is the Langdon tactical slide. I have a full review on that. That'll be down in the description. Very cool slide, very groundbreaking. And I do like the way he did it with the backup irons and all that good stuff. As the gun sits here, this is kind of checks all the boxes for me. This is my kit gun, end of the world sidearm, if you will, whatever. If I'm in full kit, this is the gun that's going to be on my side. I trust this gun. I trust the magazines I have for it. I've vetted them. It runs well. You have a threaded barrel for a suppressor, which actually my thread protector is still inside from running the Ghost M on there. Very cool gun. Joy to shoot. New shooters like this gun. Experienced shooters like this gun. I've had tons of people try to buy this gun from me, and I won't sell because I love it. So that's the M9A3. Next gun we're going to talk about is going to be the CZ P01. Now this is the urban gray variant. I'm a very big fan of CZs, specifically their hammer fire double action, single action guns, and that's what this one is. Now it does feature the Omega trigger, so you can convert this from a decocker to a manual safety if you wanted to carry cocked and locked. Obviously, for the reasons I stated above, it's not really something I'm going to do. So decocker position on this gun is very natural for me, and it is ambi. So it's an ambi decocker, right hand friendly slide release. So don't make me make sense of that, but it is what it is. So from a firing grip, decocker, very easy for me to hit. The biggest thing that people ding CZs on, specifically their hammer fired guns, is the slide in frame design. And what I mean by that is you can see that the slide rides down in the frame. So it gives you a smaller profile here for manipulating the slide. Different, yes. Big deal, no, not in my opinion. Because what it does allow me to do is get my support hand thumb higher up on the gun without interfering with the slide at all. So it is still in the frame. So the Urban Gray, in case you're wondering what that means, 16 round mag instead of 14 on here, has a little base plate, gets you +2. And all their Urban Gray variants are going to be that way, a little bit increased mag capacity. You also get this weird color, which is kind of a FDE gray-ish. Some people love it, some people hate it. Doesn't really bother me too much. Threaded barrel and suppressor height sights. In essence, it's their tactical suppressor ready model. So one of the neat things about CZs, if you want to upgrade the trigger, Cajun Gunworks is kind of considered the best in business. So there is that. I actually got to play with a Cajunized SP01 the other day, which is this gun's big brother. A lot of fun, very nice trigger on that gun. So these are Czech-made guns. They're cool. They're imported into Kansas. A lot of fun to play with. A lot of features that kind of used to be like Canik was, where, well, even Canik's not that way anymore, but where they were really good guns and nobody really knew about them, so you could get really good deals on them. Unfortunately, people have kind of caught on to both Canik and CZ at this point, so the prices are up there. But I do feel like they're very good guns for the money. You do get a lot of features. So there is that. The ergonomics are very good. Obviously, that's a very subjective thing. Don't know whether you'll feel the same way or not, but I spent a lot of time carrying this gun as well. Issues with it, not really many, as long as I ran good quality ammo through it. I use this gun a lot for load developments. This gun is one of my guns that I shoot most accurately. The Beretta is also one, but I do shoot this gun very well, especially with the single action trigger pull. So when I'm doing load developments and I'm wanting to test accuracy and things like that, because I don't have a vise to hold the gun, I do use this one a lot for load development. So there is that. Obviously there is no red dot sight on here. There are some companies that will mill the slides, but it doesn't come that way out of the box. So it is what it is. If you want a red dot, it's going to be an added expense. There is no optics ready variant of these pistols out, to my knowledge. Next up, we have the CZ P07. This is a polymer frame version, whereas the P01 is an alloy frame and metal. Also, side note on the P01, it does have a NATO stock number. I'm going to drop a link in the description for you to check out kind of what it went through with testing and evaluation to get that NATO stock number. Very cool. The P07 is a polymer framed compact, similar, it's basically the double action, single action Glock, if you will. It's very compact, 15+1 mag capacity, very ergonomic, not quite as ergonomic in my opinion as the P01, but you still have the Omega trigger system, meaning that you could change the decocker out to a safety if you want to. Again, not something I've ever messed with, doesn't fit my preferences. You do have the same slide and frame design and all that good stuff. With the polymer, the gun is lighter. How much of a difference that makes going to depend on you. Obviously, as somebody that appendix carried an M9A3 with a light and red dot, the weight doesn't tend to be a huge decision-making factor for me. Very ergonomic gun, again, with the slide in frame design. Gets my support thumb up here on this textured pad that they put on there. Very good index point for both your trigger finger, for trigger discipline, and your support hand thumb, regardless of what you're doing with the gun. Very easy to shoot, a little bit more snappy due to the lightweight, but nothing terrible, nothing bad at all. And still nowhere near as bad as 40 Smith & Wesson guns. So there is that. Very good carry option if you want to mount a red dot. There are several companies that will mill the slide for you and allow you to do that. You do still have a spot for a light. Good stuff. I see no reason to say don't carry one of these. The iron sights on here work just fine. I did black out the rear. Again, preference. It makes that front sight easier for me to find and focus on. So there is that. CZ P07. I'm going to shoot all these guns too, not just talk. But there we go. Next up is one of my more recent acquisitions. This is the HK P30. So this one is a bit weird in the fact that it is the P30S, so it does have a manual safety. So you could carry it cocked and locked if you wanted to. but conversely it does have a decocker right next to the hammer. You guys, I'll link to my first look video. I don't have a full review on it yet because I'm still going through that process. So this is my current carry gun right now as I am reviewing it and putting it through its paces and things like that. I find myself really understanding the hype around these guns. The trigger is nothing to write home about. It's a serviceable trigger. It's not particularly great. It's not particularly bad. It just is what it is. It's a duty grade trigger in my opinion. Seems to be a very reliable gun. At this point I have had 0 malfunctions through it, and I'm at about 600 rounds through it at this point. Of those 600, about 80 of them were hollow points of varying bullet design, nothing too crazy, but some very wide mouth hollow points as well as some weirder stuff, and it has fed them all. So it's kind of what I expect. If a gun doesn't do that, that's definitely something that I will address in the full review, and it has been the exception, not the rule. So what do you get with this gun? Well, the paddle style mag release. Some people love it, some people hate it. My boss at work loves it. It is truly ambidextrous, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is this little, your mag release is there on the trigger guard. So instead of having a button, it's right there. I don't find myself particularly loving it or particularly hating it. I don't really feel strongly about it either way. It's there, it's cool, it's serviceable. I don't know the proper way to use it, so if my middle finger actuating it is driving you nuts, I'm open to advice, but that's been the most natural thing I have found. Of course, that does require you to alter your firing grip, so people that are vehemently opposed to that, I understand, but I have found it to work well doing that. The controls are all easy for me to reach. Other than that, needing to alter my grip, but the slide stop, slide release is ambi. The gun is truly an ambidextrous gun. Things I like about it, the grip. So what you do get with this that you don't get with others is going to be the ability to not only change the back strap, but also change the palm swells. The P07, the polymer frame CZ, you can change the back strap. Nothing you can do about palm swells. The P01, you can change the side panels, which I have done. I think I've got some lock grips on there, but you can't do anything about the back strap. The Beretta, same thing. Those are lock grips that they sent me as well. Phenomenal grips if you want those to deck out whatever gun takes grips. 1911s, all the good stuff. I've been very impressed with Lock's products so far. I don't get anything if you order from them, but tell them I sent you anyway, so they know that the stuff they sent me was not in vain. But I have really enjoyed those grips. So on here you can customize palm swell, back strap, all that good stuff, and make the gun fit you. So for me, what worked best was a medium back strap, large palm swells, and I did the same. You could do it asymmetrical. I did the same on both. That just works for me. Now I know some people undoubtedly find it ironic that 2 of the guns that I have touted as some of the best carry guns at this point, the P30 and the P07, neither of which have red dots, and I've been traditionally a very big fan of those since I adopted them, and I was a very big skeptic before I went into that. However, I've come to see the appeal of that technology on pistols. There will be a link to that video in the description if you want to check it out. So there is no optics ready variant of the P30, so there is that. In time I plan on sending this off and having it milled and all that good stuff and putting a dot on it. That being said, just because I think that the dot does offer a lot of advantages does not mean that iron sights can't be shot well. There are some things I think you can do to make them faster and more accurate for defensive style shooting. For me, that involves blacking out the rear sight. Again, I did that on there, and you guys can kind of see, hopefully, yeah, focused. And then it does have the photoluminescent yellowish green dot up front. So that sight does pop very fast for me. It just works for me, blacking out the rear. So with this gun, I like it quite a bit as a DA/SA gun. Again, it's kind of weird because you could carry it cocked and locked. I guess the CZs are the same way with being able to swap it over, but this one is set up from the factory. I hadn't had a single issue where the safeties come on inadvertently. You kind of have to think about it and make sure you want to do that. And mine hasn't come on. So I'm going to rule this as a DA/SA only gun, which they do have those. They have a few different variants of this gun. I don't feel qualified to really speak on those, but this one has been good. And this isn't me drinking the HK Kool-Aid. I honestly kind of hoped that when I got it and started shooting it that I could say, well, it's nothing special, but the ergonomics on the gun are, well, kind of special. So This isn't me being an HK fanboy. This is just, again, very subjective. If you've watched me for a while, you kind of know my preferences. Maybe they align with yours, maybe they don't. But I do find this to be a very comfortable gun to shoot and hold. Part of the benefit of the finger grooves and the grip for me is that when I pull the gun, my hand index is a lot easier. There's not a whole lot of trying to figure out where my grip's supposed to be. It just kind of knows. And you get that way with other guns over time, but I settled in a lot faster with this than I had other models. So there is that. Mag capacity, in case I didn't mention it. There seems to be a few different versions floating around from what I've seen at the shop. This one came with two 17-round mags. They do make 20-round mags for this gun through HK. Pro Mag has a 32-round extendo that I got. I haven't really got around to reviewing that yet. My hopes aren't high being Pro Mag, but there are 15-round variations that ship with these guns as well. The mags are interchangeable with the VP9 series of pistols, which is a striker fired gun. So yeah, there is that. Let's move on to the newcomer in the comparison. The SIG 229 Elite in this case. Very cool gun, very nice double action trigger pull. If you've heard me talk about triggers, I'm not a big fan of super light triggers, but I do absolutely put importance on smooth triggers. No stacking, no kind of grittiness, things like that. And sometimes that comes from the factory and works itself out. Sometimes it doesn't, but this is a very nice smooth trigger pull. I like it a lot. So I'm also a fan of the decocker position on this gun. It's intuitive to an extent. Like I said, I do find myself going for that as the slide release instead of the actual slide release. Training issue, familiarity issue. I think that would go away in time. Metal frame gun, heavy gun. Again, I don't really notice weight too much when I carry pistols. It's just not a huge priority for me. For you, it may be. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and treat it like a 15-round gun because it's no fault of his own. The state he came from only let him have 10-round mags. I think that this is a good option. It's not too big, not too small. Perfect size, light rail. No red dot. I'm sure there's somebody out there that could mill it. I don't know. I hadn't really looked into it too much, but I'm sure in this day and age you probably could get it milled for a dot. There may even be an optics ready variant from SIG. So there is that. Night sights, very cool. So now we're going to shoot them, and we'll just go in. We'll go in order from the top again. We'll do the Beretta first. All right, we're 20 yards from that steel silhouette right there. I'm just going to fire one mag through each gun, and yeah, we'll have a good time. So it shouldn't be too hard to hit. What I'm going to do is 5 rounds double action, and then the rest single action. So I'll drop the hammer manually using the decocker on the gun for those 5 rounds. So we'll start with the Beretta. The ear pro I'm using are the Axle earbud style. They have Bluetooth, they're electronic hearing protection. Very cool. So we're gonna give this a whirl. Didn't lock to the rear on the last one. This is a very old M9 mag. I realized when I was shooting it suppressed earlier. So this one may have been like Desert Storm even. I don't know how old it is. It's definitely one of the old government mags. It has the phosphate coating on it. But anyway, enough excuses. Let's move on to the next gun. Now we have the CZ P01 Urban Gray. Put some more spray paint. I'm going to try to paint that target between each gun. I'm kind of running low on spray primer at the moment, but hopefully it's good enough that you guys can kind of see where they're hitting. 5 rounds double action, the other 11 will be single. So as you can see, that one jumped around a lot more than the Beretta. But then again, alloy frame, smaller gun, a little bit lighter. Still fun to shoot. Next we have the CZ P07. I do like the OD green, just as a nice aside there. I don't know that I've gotten you guys a full review on this one yet, but if not, I'll have to do that soon. I'll look back through there. All right, 5 double action, 10 single action, 15 round mag capacity. Let's get after it. Might have shot that one the best. I'm not sure how well you can see the steel, but it is fairly well centered. I'll take it. I mean, it is what it is. Let me paint that and we'll get on to the HK, which supposedly is the master race, but we'll find out. All right, 17 rounds in the P30S here. We're gonna do 5 rounds double action, 12 single if my Georgia math serves me right. Good times. I do like this gun. Then again, I kind of like all of them. I think I have enough spray primer to go ahead and hit that one more time. Now, I have made the decision, since those are only 10 round mags in the 229, and I have the least amount of time with it, I'm going to be a gentleman. I'm going to put 2 mags through it, so y'all don't hate me. Be 20 rounds. Should be fun. Let me go hit that, get these mags loaded up, we'll have a good time. So I further decided to amend a little firing course of fire here. I'm going to do, since I'm doing 2 mags, I'm going to do 1 mag, 10 rounds, all double action to kind of get more of a feel for this gun. And then I'm going to do the other mag single action. So 10 and 10, that should be fun. We'll get to it, see how this goes. Not locking to the rear, which I think is me. But that was the 10. That was the 10 double action. So now we'll do single action. Do like the single action trigger on this gun quite a bit. She runs. All right, let's wrap it up. So I'm sure at this point you're gonna say, well, you haven't really said one's really good or one's really bad. The truth of the matter is I'm a fan of all of them for different things. At the end of the day, it's gonna be preference. So if you're on the fence about a double action, single action gun, any of these, I think, as long as you put the time in, are going to be good options. And the main reason for making this video isn't so much to have a shootout and see which one's better, but kind of to broaden your horizons. I'm noticing, at least from working in the shop, there is a lot of people going towards hammer-fired guns, specifically DASA semi-autos. And in one of the rare occurrences in this life where it's actually something that I feel like I know a little bit about, that's going to be these. That's my preferred style of gun. I enjoy them. In a world full of Glock and M&P guys and whatnot, I find myself gravitating towards those 99% of the time. So nothing wrong with the other style. Obviously, there's a lot of them out there. A lot of people use them, things like that. But that being said, I think these do offer some advantages, especially if you're going to carry appendix. That's what I choose as the format gun for me. So I hope that this was a good one. An honorable mention that I didn't bring out with me is the CZ P09. I'll link to that. It's so big. And I'm sure it's going to sound funny as I was telling you that I concealed carried the M9A3, but the P09 is so big that I never did carry it. So all of these guns, with the exception of the 229, are guns that I have carried concealed for a length of time. The P09 wasn't in there, but it is a very fun DASA gun. It's the big brother to the P07, if that gives you an idea. Longer barrel. The one I have is the urban gray version, so threaded barrel, all that good stuff. So I know people hate when you get on YouTube and, well, he's never shot a gun he doesn't like. I have, but a lot of the dislikes that I have for certain guns are quite frankly subjective, as well as some of the likes as well. But I have been fortunate to have those occasions be very minimal. And typically by the time I buy a gun, I've done enough research that I'm fairly confident that I'm going to like that gun. And well, you see how it goes. I'm not quite at the point where I'm getting guns sent to me willy-nilly for me to have the opportunity to dislike them, as I'm spending my own money on this stuff. Yeah, I tend to make sure it's going to be something I do like. Although I have one coming up that I'm probably going to get rid of because I haven't had the best luck with it, but you'll have to stay tuned for that. It's not it's a rimfire gun. It's not in this category. So, all that being said, I hope this gives you a good starting point. I'm open to covering any questions you might have down in the comments if I didn't cover it all in the video. I think they're all good options. I think they all have some advantages. Obviously, if you're wanting a red dot, actually I think the only gun out here that I have with a red dot is the Beretta, and that's not, with the exception of the M9A4, that's not something you can very easily do. So, and I have no idea, I can't speak either for or against the RDO option from Beretta. I just know the Langdon Tactical solution to that problem seems to be working very well for me. So, all things being equal, I like all these guns. They're some of my favorites to get out here and shoot. The double action trigger is a little bit more of a challenge. It does make you work for it a little bit more, but kind of like your dad probably told you back in high school, if it's easy, it ain't worth it, right? So, yeah. Anyway, so putting in a little bit of work with them, I think the dividends pay off. I really like that style gun, obviously. So, out of the ones I shot today, please let me know in the comments which one you would lean towards and why. I'm always down to kind of do these little social experiments and figure out how other people feel about stuff. Huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. You guys are the reason that I keep finding components and loading up ammo and getting hard drives to keep my footage and all that going. So I appreciate you guys a lot. Guys, stay safe, keep shooting, and I'll see you next time.